Hey, you're live on the WAN show. Is that chill?
Sure, my
This is
daughter's in the
Paul.
car too, though. Hey, Hannah, say hi. Okay, she's shy.
Yeah, it was worth a shot. I know how it goes. Can you guys hear Paul all right? Okay, hopefully the chat's going to let us know. All right, so Paul, I actually did not know about your video before we came on stream and we wanted to talk about the Gamers Nexus thing. And I figured, hey, if since I've got you on speed dial anyway, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences as an RMA tech? We already told people to go watch your video for the whole story, but I needed TLDR and I didn't know where else to turn.
Sure, yeah, and thank you. I mean, it was my job for about a year. It was within the first year that I joined Newegg. It was part of customer service, but I worked out in the RMA warehouse, which was attached to the same build. It was all in the same warehouse facility.
Interesting. So at Newegg, at Newegg, the structure then is that RMA technicians also replied directly to customer tickets?
I can't speak to how they do it now, and I think it might be different now than it was then. Like, the point of my job at the time was to have someone who could talk to the customer and communicate and be like, oh, okay, take special circumstances into account. But, you know, I was also a customer service agent, not a warehouse worker. CS agents, I think, get paid more. So I'm not sure if at some point they decided that they should separate that, and now there's a different team who looks at, you know, special RMAs in the warehouse versus the CS agents who are actually in direct contact with the customer. But at the time, like, I had that ability. So I was there physically holding your return and also emailing back and forth with you. So it was a pretty, you know, there wasn't any communication gap there.
Got it. Okay. And so from your experience working at Newegg, what are the odds that they could have accidentally sold this motherboard again, knowing that it was damaged?
I mean, that's another good question. And also, it could also be something that is two separate departments at this point. There could be returns that go to one facility, and then there could be another facility that has actual, like, open box products or other stuff like that. Hey, I'm live on the WAN show.
Hi.
My wife says hi too. Let me switch to my phone since I just got home. Okay, can you still hear me?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, what was I talking about? It's entirely possible that wherever that open box, like whatever route that product took, as far as Newegg getting it, returning it back to Gigabyte being like, no, we can't accept this, or you have to pay for it. And then I don't know how it got back to Newegg, and then how it got back into Newegg's inventory. That's the big mystery. And
right,
whether that was intentional or not, you know, that's obviously the question mark. Is there someone there who's like, oh, I'm going to take this product that was otherwise a loss and try to make something of it? I mean,
yeah. But and he's dead. Let's see if he comes back.
So one interesting thing, and this was brought up on last WAN show, I believe, is that Liaison Interactive purchased out Newegg in 2016.
Yes, 2016.
So Paul would have worked for them before that.
Hi, you're back.
I'm back.
So you kind of pitched the maybe an enterprising employee who was trying to, you know, make some extra money for the company by selling a defective motherboard to someone or whatever, could have conceivably done this. And you know what? That might have been one of my possible hypotheses as well, because I remember back at NCIX, the eBay department, and this was honestly what I felt probably happened with that fiasco where MSI was caught scalping GPUs supposedly. And my understanding is this ultimately was what happened, is that the eBay department is not necessarily involved in every strategic business meeting and will sometimes just go and do very random rogue stuff. So I can tell you from my experience at NCIX, once something made its way into eBay land, the odds of something sketchy happening went up exponentially. Like, they were much higher. But the problem for me is that this is a product that was just not bought on eBay. Like it was just bought on Newegg.com.
Yeah, that combined with, how they're labeling the open box stuff a lot less obviously now, that's a concern, because it isn't, it's not the kind of product that should have been sold as a new product. Like, that should be completely separate inventory. But once you get into the stuff that has already been handled or returned or, damaged in shipping or something like that, all of that, I will say that when I worked in the RMA warehouse, stuff piled up. Like, there was stuff that arrived that even I was like, well, it's not, I'm not responsible for it or whatever. Things would just get shoved off into the corner because there was nothing else to do with it. And eventually you might have someone come along who's like, let's try to make more profit out of this stuff, regardless of its condition. But yeah, I think if you want to give Newegg the benefit of the doubt and assume that there is maybe a problem here that could be fixed, if there is someone at the company who is making shady decisions and deciding to take products like that and try to resell them and be like, aha, the customer's just going to get screwed over, but we'll make some money. Like, if that person gets rooted out, then cool.
Right.
If it's, if there's someone who has oversight over this, who is also aware of it, and it's, a bigger problem than that, then obviously that's a bigger problem, and people should hold them accountable for how they're treating customers.
The most unbelievable one to me, because I don't even actually necessarily mind that the label's not super obvious. I mean, going back to NCIX, our systems weren't particularly advanced, but I can tell you that our internal label would say refurbished on it if it was anything other than brand new, and it wasn't super obvious. But what would happen is we tracked it electronically. That's why I was saying earlier in the show, I said, well, hey, someone would have had to manually move this thing out of the RMA pool into not an open box and not a refurbished pool, but into a brand new inventory pool because, and I'm assuming Newegg has to have at least this level of sophistication. There was absolutely no way that on a customer invoice, because the way it worked is you'd get the bin would roll down the conveyor, and then we had the scanning station that would verify the contents of the bin against the physical invoice at the time of, before it would go on to the next conveyor where it would be boxed and shipped. And so the way that process worked was every single item in the bin would be scanned against the physical invoice, and then we would check electronically in the system to make sure that the electronic version of the invoice matched the physical one and that matched the contents of the bin. And there was no way to scan an open box item onto a brand new purchase because they were separate inventory pools. And there is just no conceivable way for me that even if you could miss the label, right? You can miss a label, okay? You can miss a piece of text or a piece of tape or even a big piece of paper taped onto something. You can miss that, conceivably, if you were sleepwalking. But there's no way...
The sticker on the motherboard was massive on Steve's.
Yeah, but there's no way that you can miss. There's no way you can miss a misscan where it says, hey, this order is not complete. Like, we had a sound that played. Like, it wouldn't let you do it. It can't be that bad.
And that should be to prevent the wrong item getting put in the box and shipped to the customer. So I guess you're questioning whether he even got the proper item that was supposed to be sent to him, or if just somehow, oopsie, in the warehouse, they tossed in this random crappy open box motherboard with bent pins versus the one that they were actually supposed to ship.
So the chat's clarifying that it was marked open box. So that's fine. But either way, guys, inventory pools at an organization like an NCIX or like a Newegg are going to be tracked separately. Your RMA pool of inventory, like when you're a product manager, because that's what I did. When you're a product manager going through your inventory report for Gigabyte motherboards, right? I don't see inventory on that report that is in our RMA pool. How would that be useful to me in my job, right? I see open box and I see brand new in box, but I don't see RMA. When you move something from one place to another, a decision has to be made to do that. And there's no way that you could scan something on a brand new invoice that is open box, and there should be no way that you can scan something from an RMA pool that is supposed to be open box. Do you kind of get what I mean? So how the heck could this possibly happen?
And that's maybe why it deserves a lot more scrutiny, because I would be curious to know what agreements are in place between like manufacturers such as like an MSI or a Gigabyte and a retailer like Newegg when it comes to the resale of like products that have been returned or that are open box or something like that. And like, 'cause here's the other thing. It's it was a Z590 motherboard, right? Or it's not a new motherboard.
No.
Like how many open box of that motherboard do they have? I would bet it's a very, very small amount.
Yeah, I'd wager it's not very many.
But somebody had to have, created maybe a branch SKU or something like that for open box versions of the same product and then listed it for sale. So that's why to me it doesn't seem like the wrong product was tossed in the box. It seemed like they intentionally listed this motherboard specifically for sale on the website, and obviously they shouldn't have. But how did it get there, and whose job is it currently to take products like this and list them for sale? And are they being very, very, very horrible at their job? Or potentially even, going over that line to the point where they're, scamming customers.
I got to tell you, I have a big problem with open box motherboards in the first place because the motherboard, I'd say right up there with memory, is probably the most likely component to have some kind of problem with it that isn't obvious immediately. If you kind of get what I mean?
Yeah.
And so...
Like a NIC not working or something like that.
Exactly. Or like an instability issue that only pops up once every 6 hours or something like that. Like it's far more likely to encounter something like that on a motherboard or on a stick of memory compared to a CPU, for example, or a case, obviously. Like or a GPU. GPUs are typically broken or they're not broken, and it's relatively obvious. You know what I mean? And so even just the practice of selling a motherboard that has already been returned should be approached so cautiously and so carefully that never mind if it has a mangled socket, right? You should be double checking and triple checking that there was actually nothing wrong with this board, that it was only returned because they exchanged it for a different one with better onboard graphics or a different color scheme or whatever the case may be, and that you know for a fact that it's working.
So, to play devil's advocate, as I know you like to do sometimes, and come at it from the manufacturer's perspective, because you know how slim the margins are in this industry.
I do.
Should all motherboards cost a few more dollars?
Well,
to absorb the impact of having to eat the cost of returns and not sell them as open box or handle it in that sort of way.
It's funny you mentioned that. We actually talked about the race to zero. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the term 1,000 times being in this industry.
2% more.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this on the WAN show last week, where Luke and I talked about how we should turn lttstore.com into an electronics retailer, and that'll be our model. We'll just mark everything up, like literally 2.5% more would probably be all that you would need to have industry-leading customer service compared to everybody else, because that is how slim it was. Do you remember when Newegg tried to go IPO?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
I was supposed to have some stock options that never really amounted up to anything.
Well, they would have been pretty poopy stocks because I don't know if did you look at the financials?
Newegg's? Or what, back when they were trying?
Yeah, Newegg's.
It's a long time ago.
The net profit was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 1%. And on like, I think it was on like about $1 billion annually in sales. Like it was a freaking lot of money in sales. And so 1% of $1 billion is still a freaking lot of money, right?
It's all about volume.
It's all about that volume, right? But nobody is going to invest in a company that is making 1% net profit. So I think that's something a lot of viewers don't really understand when I do tend to come at things from a manufacturer's or from a retailer's perspective, is that there's no free lunch. If you want cheap as chips electronics, it comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, that's
Yeah,
not an excuse. You still have to abide by the law. And it appears as though Newegg, whether intentionally or unintentionally, clearly did not do that here.
I mean, you're putting it in pretty stark terms there, and yeah, I mean, are we ever going to find out for sure whether it was intentional or unintentional? Is there ever going to be any sort of like direct addressing of this by Newegg on some level?
Not unless there's a whistleblower. So if anyone from Newegg is watching, I implore you now, blow the whistle, get in touch with us. We want to see the internal tickets that have been sent around about this case, because I guarantee you they've made it to the VP level at this point.
Yeah.
I want to hear from you. What happened? Someone blow the whistle. I'm ready. Or better yet, reach out to Steve from Gamers Nexus, because he's the one who should be breaking this story. All right. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, thanks for calling, and have a great rest of the Wayne show. And what's up, Luke? That's Luke, right?
Hi, Paul.
Better believe it.
Hi, Luke.
Man, it's been so long. Yeah, we'll have to. Are you going to Computex this year?
I'm currently, that is like my intent. Yeah.
Okay, I want to go. So if there's
too.
Computex, man, we got to have like a reunion dinner or something. I haven't seen you in forever.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
All right.
I love that.
All right, later, dude.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Okay, bye. So there you have it. Paul with the very unusual for him balanced take. Just kidding. Obviously.
Paul was a very balanced and level person.
He really is.
Newegg stock over the last year has gone whoof, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's terrible, terrible. But if I was an investor, it's the last bit. I mean, I've had every opportunity, guys. I have had every opportunity. Do you know how easy it is to sign up for a distributor account with like Bell Micro or Ingram or whatever and start just like drop shipping, selling electronics? Do you guys have any idea how easy that is? We could probably be set up in a matter of hours. There's a reason that I got better stuff to do.